he understood. This is, I said about deportation. He talked about colonization, states, where he was trying, if you think about it, he was trying to figure out how could it work? What would happen if, you know, and I think if you see what happened and the problem we've had in America, it's a question that any thinking person would ask. Delaney, who was one of the people who influenced him, was advocating colonization. So Lincoln had thought that maybe this is what, and then as he learned that people didn't, but he always, you look at everything he ever said, for those who want to. Okay. He thought that many would not want to stay in America. And I think it was a little surprised how much, in fact, people did love America and want to stay. I wish he had not said some of the things. It was a racist society. People were racist. But even in those Douglas-Lincoln debates, when he is fighting against a white supremacy platform, and he's trying to do that, and they're saying, aha, you're going to insist on amalgamation. You're insisting that every white man should marry a black woman and all this. And he says, you know, just because I don't want a black woman as my slave doesn't mean I want her as my wife. And he says, I'm in favor of the white race, as others were. He never backed down from something that's pretty amazing at that time, that is natural rights. And where do natural rights come from? From God.
Could you say that Lincoln's American dream was actually a dream of a white America?
No, I disagree. I think that was in a debate at a time in a context where people had just about painted him out as the farthest left they could be, interracial. I mean, the fear was a mouth. You should see the Democratic newspapers. Black men, white women, and black children, and mixed race children there, and it was not used in a flattering way. And they were saying Lincoln's America, and he was responding to that. And the other thing about Lincoln, I think, is very hard to deny if you study the record of Lincoln. Even though he said those things, he never backed down to the other about slavery and about that. And clearly he looked at colonization, but so did black leaders like Martin Delaney. I mean, it was good whites and blacks there. And I think he didn't know. Lincoln grew when he knew people like Harriet Tubman, who he met when he was...
We had took their freedom without the benefit of the railroad. I believe in what they done because Mr. Lincoln and all those who come before him couldn't give that proclamation beforehand. So I believe what I did and others like me, we was just kind of helping them along. You understand what I mean? Yes. Mr. Lincoln done more. Now I'm not going to say all of that either. Because the one white man that I admire more than anybody, that'd be John Brown. You know him? John Brown, man with the fire eyes and the flowing hair. John Brown, he was a martyr. He was a martyr from mine. Yes. That answer your question, sir? Yes. Very good.
We met when he was the first president to have African Americans in the White House except the servants. And when he got to know people like Frederick Douglass, then he realized what they were. You can see him growing in amazing ways. When African Americans fought in the war, he makes it very clear they have the rights of citizenship. So when he gives his last speech from the balcony after Lee surrendered, and John Wilkes Booth hears him, and John Wilkes Booth turned to his friend and he says, the last speech he made, he is calling for, but he doesn't use the word black, of course, he uses the word we won't use, citizenship. He wasn't crazy, he was exactly right, I'm convinced.
His vision was to form a perfect union, and that's what he actually ended up doing. So I think it was a good thing. So when you do wrong, it comes back in a form that you wouldn't even imagine. The tragedy actually just started in his life when he was young. All this was destined actually to happen to him. Everything that he went through, it was actually, he was enduring all the stress and the pain that was actually going on in his life. But one thing that I can see as far as in him, he lifted himself up in a way which I can understand. He conformed as far as to his way of life. And he actually ended up, that's where he grew as far as a man and actually as a person. So I think one of the good things is he endured, that's a good word. He endured the pain that was actually happening in his life and actually in his family and actually within the country also. So I think that's a good thing as far as, that's what I'm taking from him. Even though he didn't free the slaves per se, it was already done. He was in a state that was not people that were actually enslaved.
That was so damn bad.
You know, you have to tell the true story. It's like a lot of people say, that was the true story. So what can you do about something that was still destined to actually happen? You can't even change things in your own town as far as in Kentucky. That should have been the first place you should have started, where you were born at. That's all I have to say.
The thing about Lincoln that I admire the most is that to me he was like an everyman. I mean, I don't know if rags to riches, that's kind of a cliche, but I mean, here's somebody who faced all the challenges that many average, everyday, very humble beginnings, and obviously what he became and what he accomplished was very significant in our country's history. But I mean, you're talking about someone who was arguably the poorest of poor when he started in Kentucky in a log cabin or whatnot, and wasn't much more accomplished than that for many years of his life. Somebody who arguably suffered from clinical depression, somebody who experienced great failures throughout their adulthood, from failed businesses to failed political campaigns to, I mean, here's somebody who really, suffered a lot of slings and arrows, and that's not even to mention abuse he got while he was president. I mean, I know that at the Presidential Museum, there's one entire room devoted to all the anti-Lincoln newspaper clippings of the day that just skewered this guy. I mean, we think that our current leadership is going through a lot of criticism. I mean, I don't know that it would probably pale in comparison to what Lincoln suffered at the hands of the experts back then. So, I mean, talk about somebody who faced adversity in so many different ways, yet persevered. I mean, to me, that's the strength of Lincoln, and something that I think children today can really learn from is his commitment, his perseverance, just his dogged determination to...
What do you know about Abraham Lincoln?
He's on his age. He's a very nice, kind man. He wanted to stop the racism.
He was our 16th president. He won the Civil War. He signed some kind of paper. He wanted to stop racism.
Actually, after reading the script to this play, I'm surprised to learn some of the quotes from Abraham Lincoln as well as some other famous people in the past. And I'm actually surprised that I was taught in school that Lincoln freed the slaves. My son has been a fan of Lincoln for a long time, and I'm not sure of the conversation that I need to have with him. I think he needs to understand how Lincoln felt about him as a black person, and I'm actually trying to come up with the words to be able to share with him the actual history, because I think it's fair that he learns the full story and not just what he was taught in school, which is the same thing that I was taught in school.
Abraham Lincoln is a bad, bad man.
Bad, he's evil. You're going down, Abe.
Well, he's already dead. Down.
What do you think about Abraham Lincoln?
I actually think he was a really good president, but sometimes he made the wrong choices.
What else do you think? Is that it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Some extraordinary things for the time. And one of my favorite stories is when Douglas, who's been invited, and this is typical Lincoln, how he used this sort of backwoods, common folks way of setting things up that he knew people understood. They've asked Lincoln's opinion on a very important question, and he's invited Douglas. They stop him at the door because black's been invited to the White House, and he sees these people stalking Douglas. He said, there is my friend Douglas. He said, there is no man's, he doesn't say black man, there's no man's opinion who I respect more than Douglas. Douglas, come